I was working on a scenario the other day in the DP Blueprint calculator, and I wanted to share it with all of you. It's a simple scenario. It lends itself to learning the system very easily. And so right here I have the DP Blueprint Tools master file open. And then we have a few files over here. We have an overview file and then the two scenario files that we're going to look at today. One scenario has putting an extra $500 a month towards the debt, and one an extra $1,000 because the client's not sure what the cash flow is going to be and they want to see what does it look like if I do these two different options. So pulling up the PowerPoint file, you can see here that we have the debts listed out, and we've got 3 credit cards, some student loans, and a mortgage. The balance, the required and actual payments, and the interest rates. The interest rate on the Alaska is 0% interest, but it does go to 9.99% after 12 months. The interest rate on the mortgage is also very low, 4.2%, and so there's not really any sense in paying that off with a policy loan because the policy loan is a higher interest rate. So let's take a look at the scenario files. Here is number 1 scenario file. And usually we start on the 10/20/70 worksheet where we'll put in income numbers over here to get a target graph, and then we'll put in the various actual cash flows here, expenses, whether it's living expenses, mortgage payments, all of that information goes in here on the left-hand side, and then we get an idea of whether cash flow is balanced for this client or not. That really wasn't an issue. Cash flow in this example, the client knows how much extra that they have, somewhere between $500 and $1,000 per month, and so we can skip this step. We did not use the other orange tabs either, the policy combo or the policy interpolation tabs. Those are tools that you can use to get the data in a format that you need to put into the calculator here. So now we're on the first real main input tab, the Money Manager account, MMA. And the different pieces that we inputted for this one is we put the date in, so December 2020, and that gives us a nice reference all the way down. We only have to put it in the very first field that's highlighted in yellow. And right beside it here we have MMA cash flow. Remember, the Money Manager account is money that is outside a policy. So we're putting in an extra $500 per month, and there's an easy way to do this. You can use the keyboard shortcut Control-D to put this information in. So I just cleared everything out. You can do $500 in the first cell. You go out of that cell, click back on it, and then Control-D. And it carries all the way down from there. That's pretty easy to work with. We don't have any special things happening with the money in the Money Manager account. It's going straight to pay off debt. And we're not using any of the money to pay premiums on any of the policies that we're working with. Next step, the Policies tab. Here are the policies that we're working with. We have 3 in-force policies. Normally when you put a new policy in on the DP Blueprint tool, you would start in year 1 and you could go all the way out till year 30. Since this is an in-force policy, we put current year values on the row for year 0 all across here. And we put a -8 for how many months ago was the policy anniversary date, 8 months ago. Put the current cash value here, and any loan balance can go right in this column right here. And notice here we also have a $5,000 hold on this policy for the first 10 years. This means we're not going to take any policy loan against this policy until the net cash value is built up to at least $5,000 there. So we have a reserve basically of $5,000 over these first 10 years. It may take a year or so to build up there. If we're below that, which we are a little bit, you'll see that when we get to the results. Moving over a little bit, we have policy number 2. Similar thing going on here with policy 2. And something I'll point out here, the premiums are directly from the illustration, so they're shown annually. But then we put in how many premiums per year should this amount be divided into. So the software is taking this 3,600, it's dividing it into 12 premiums, 12 monthly premiums, which will show up on our actual scenario file. This policy anniversary date was 6 months ago, and there's no loan balance on this one. Moving over again, we have a smaller policy on a child. Anniversary date was 7 months ago, much smaller premium, and again, no loan balance on this policy. Next stop, Debt Priority tab. Here are the debts that we looked at in the PowerPoint. We brought over the information right here into the spreadsheet. Notice this is the Alaska. We have a note over here. That one's going to 9.99% after 12 months. And when you first come into this sheet and put in your information, there's going to be nothing here in the priority column. And this is one of the first steps. You need to decide which of these debts makes sense to pay off first. If you're not sure, you can run a couple different scenarios and try them in different orders. See which one gives you the best option. But in this case, we've followed pretty closely the cash flow ratio. You notice this color-coded column here. It's looking at the ratio between the required payment and the balance. The higher this ratio, the more money that you're going to recover compared to what you had to pay off to recover this money. So this field, the interest rate, and also the balance, these are the different factors that you're looking at and trying to balance. And there's no set algorithm that's always the best for this, and this is why it takes some human touch here to put these in the best order. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you could put these numbers in any order. Just put them in. 5 was up here where 1 was, and all over the place. You just get them in the order you want, and then click the Sort Debts button over here, and it will put them in the correct order, just like we have here. Once you have this in, then you would click the Configure Debts button, and that will usually take a couple of minutes as everything transfers over to the Debts tab, which is the next stop. That macro translates the information for each debt into the inputs that you see right here. So now each debt has its own section in a section of 5 different columns here. First, we have the amount of the Chase card, the balance, the interest rate, so you can change the interest rate along the way, and the payment amount that we're used to making every single month. Move over, you see the next debt, the Alaska. The Alaska one here, remember that interest rate goes to 9.99% after 12 months. So we simply come right in here to month 13, put our 9.99% right here, and Control D to carry it all the way down from there. Student loans are input, along with the payment that we're used to making on those, a little over $1,000 per month. And then we have the mortgage right here. What we want to do, since this interest rate is low, we don't want to accelerate the payoff of this mortgage, but we would still like to include the numbers on the spreadsheet and see when that mortgage will be paid off on its own. So the way to solve this is to put in a hold on the debt. So you see the amount of this debt is $270,000. If we put in a hold for $270,000, now this mortgage will not receive any extra payments beyond the required $1,373 every single month. So we're not going to accelerate that when we can accomplish that by putting in a hold. Now we go to the Results tab, and this is where everything comes together. Here on the left you have the year, date, and month. We have the money coming into the money manager account every single month, the $500 a month, but notice it doesn't stay in this account. The balance is 0. We have the policy values, and we have a few different values here that we're looking at that are related to the policy. We have the premium outlays. Of course, it's combining all these policies into one. We have different policy loans that are coming out, and we have net cash value that you can see right here. Notice that this net cash value takes a little bit of time. It builds up to that $5,000 and a little bit over $5,000. This $5,000 then stays here as we pay off the rest of the debts, because that's the hold that we put in on the policies tab. We wanted to keep this in reserve. Here's the policy loan balance that we see over here. You can see how the policy loan is increasing as we borrow some of these funds to help accelerate the debt payoff. And then the net death benefit is looking at the death benefit from the illustrations minus any outstanding policy loan balance. This column is combining our money manager account balance and net cash value, which is the same thing right now until we get further down. And net legacy is combining your net death benefit plus any money that was outside the policies, which we don't have any quite yet, so you'll see that number diverge a little bit further down. Here's the redirected cash flow. The money that starts accumulating in this column as we pay off the various debts starts building up here, and this goes as an extra payment to whatever debt that we're working on. So it's snowballing the debt payments as we go. The Chase card is paid off very quickly, as is the Bank of America. The Alaska card paid off after 6 months, and the student loans take a little bit longer. So we have an extra $110 a month that we're putting towards this the student loans, plus what we're taking out in policy loans. So every time you see a policy loan over here, that money is going as an extra payment toward the debt that we're working on. So if we scroll down here, year 5, month 60 is highlighted because we use that as a comparison point. If we keep going here, year 10 is also highlighted, month 120 in yellow. Here we are, month 125, the student loans are paid off. And remember, we're not accelerating the mortgage at this point. So the $1,226 of recovered cash flow, redirected cash flow, comes back around. It actually goes through the money manager account, but you don't actually see that happening because we're putting it straight toward the policy loan. You see the policy loan starts to decrease here. And the policy loan, if we keep scrolling down, you can see it's paid off in year 15, month 177. At this point, the $1,226 that was in redirected cash flow starts accumulating here in the money manager account because it can't get into a policy anymore. And so this way we can run a comparison at any given point, see how much money we have both in the policy and outside the policy. You can have a closer apples to apples comparison than if we just stop the cash flow at this point. Now let's see, this is with $500 extra per month toward debt payoff. What would happen if we used $1,000 extra per month? That's scenario number 2. The only difference on scenario number 2 is that we saved number 1, we took a copy of it, so everything's the same, and then we came in here to the Money Manager Account tab, MMA, and we put $1,000 a month instead of $500. That's the only difference. Now we go to the Results tab, and you see the $1,000 a month coming in here. Everything looks very similar with the policies, but the debts are accelerated faster. We scroll down here. The student loans are paid off in month 94, in year 8. The policy loans are paid off down here 10 years and 2 months, month 122. All the debts are paid off except the mortgage, of course. And now we see the money accumulating here in the money manager account as well as in the policies. And this is where this money manager account plus net cash value, this is where it becomes a very nice comparison number because it's taking the total of what we have in our net cash value and what's in the money manager account, and it's totaling those together, $145,000. We have one number. Same with the net legacy. That's why the net legacy is higher here than just the net death benefit. If we keep scrolling, we'll go over to the right a little bit so we can see when this mortgage is paid off. We're going to let it be paid off naturally. See how long that takes. Okay, so the mortgage will be paid off naturally in about 28 years. And that's just about right. That's calculating all the interest in that during all those 28 years. If we would have taken a policy loan to pay off that mortgage, yeah, we could have paid off the mortgage faster. But then we still would have owed the policy loan, and it would have been a higher interest rate. So overall, not quite as beneficial. But we could still show it on the scenario, and so that makes it nice and easy. A couple more points that I'd like to look at. Sometimes you want to look up information at certain points in the spreadsheet here without scrolling down like we just did. You can go to the Summary tab in green, and you can put the month that you want to look up. So here I have 60, 120, and I'll do 180. Put the 180 in here. That's year 5, 10, 15. Right here I can see my total accounts. 5,230, 78,446, 264. I can also see how much of that money is outside my policies, how much is in, and also what outstanding debt is. You can see those numbers very clearly right here, and then we have some other information in here as well. If we want to compare that really quickly with the first scenario where we were only putting an extra $500 a month in, we can very easily do that by going to the summary sheet of this workbook. And now, if we can get both of these here on the screen, here on the upper right we have the results from scenario 1, $500 a month. Here we have number 2, $1,000 a month, and you can very easily see the differences. Sometimes it's helpful to graph the results. So if we go to the Charts tab here for number 1, and these numbers are really small, but you can see an overview of the screen here. We have the chart on the right and the source of information on the left. Let's blow this up now so we can see the numbers a little bit better. Right here, this is scenario 1 of an extra $500 a month. We're graphing total accounts. This is the money in the policy and outside the policy, and net death benefit. And then for number 2, we're also graphing total accounts and net death benefit. And you can easily copy these values over from the charts screen on the other scenario, so you can get the numbers into the same scenario, put them all on the same graph. Now, there's a few changes we may want to make over here. You can see the lines here. That makes it very nice. You can see how much farther ahead the $1,000 a month is. The death benefits are about the same because we're using the same policies. It's just the difference in policy loan there for those few years while we're paying off that policy loan on the first scenario a bit longer. Now, one of the things you see here is that there's room for a couple of more scenarios as well, but we really don't need these on this chart. So I click on the outside of the chart, just somewhere in the white area, and it highlights where the information is coming from. So now I just grab the bottom corner of the blue diagram here. We put that just over the areas that we want, and now it's taken out the chart just down to the information we want. Something else I may want to do here is to change the colors of these orange ones. So I can click the orange line, format the data series, and go to the fill option over here, and let's get the color blue. And then let's do that for the net death benefit on that method as well. We'll make it a lighter colored blue. There we go. Those colors go nicely together. Let's title the chart results. I just double click here. And then you can copy this into a PowerPoint presentation. So let's copy the graph. I can right click, copy, and now we bring our PowerPoint back over here. Here are the debts that we started with, and maybe I want to start with the client by showing them a nice visual overview. So I can go right in here. We can add some animations here, and let's have it wipe in from the left. That way these lines will look like they're being drawn in. And we'll let the background be there to start with. Let's take a look. Here are the debts. We can show them all the information that we have here. And we click once, and here are the results. If they put $500 a month towards this, and here's their net death benefit. If they put $1,000 a month toward it, then here's what they have. And here's the net death benefit. So there you have it. That's a very simple scenario in the DP Blueprint Calculator.